Aluji used to be just a normal guy, but one day he suddenly finds himself turned into a dragon egg, stuck in the same situation as Doofin SCHMZ, since neither of his parents showed up for his birth. The first thing he notices is a screen, and a voice inside his head tells him that his status window will show information about his abilities, which actually sounds pretty useful. But then Alugia realizes he should probably be worried about the fact that he's hearing a voice in his head at all. The voice explains that she's part of the divine voice skill, and her role is to explain things related to his status and abilities. He asks if this world is some kind of game, but she says she can't provide that information because the divine voice skill is still only level 1. Alugia then asks where he is, but once again the voice refuses to answer anything not related to his status. He gets so annoyed that his egg ends up rolling off a cliff. When he finally stops, the system tells him he just gained a falling damage resistance ability. But there's a catch. His HP dropped by 1 point. And when you only have 5 HP, that's a huge problem. He ends up rolling toward the edge of a lake, where he sees his reflection for the first time in this world. That's when he realizes he is literally an egg. The system informs him that he's a dragon egg, a Frank monster, and if his shell is destroyed, he will die. Alugia is already upset, but it gets even worse when the system tells him that dragon eggs are powerless and have single-digit IQs, meaning rolling around is basically all he can do right now. They do have the potential to become terrifying dragons after hatching, but if you've ever watched Nat Geo Wild, you know the survival odds are really low. Alugia starts panicking, and all the shaking makes him roll down the hill again, falling off another ledge and dropping his HP to 3. So he decides to stay still for now because he can't afford any more damage. By nightfall, his HP finally regenerates, so he's safe to move again. He slowly starts rolling across the ground, thinking about what his life as an egg will be like. Being an egg might suck, but eventually he'll hatch into a dragon and become insanely powerful, so he decides that will be his goal. While rolling through the forest, he encounters another creature. Getting closer, he discovers it's called a dark worm, and its stat screen gives it the title of Egg Eater. Yeah, that's bad. Alugia immediately rolls away as fast as he can, but the worm is way too fast for him. It has 8 HP, which is higher than Alugia's max health, so headbutting it would just get him killed first. Then he remembers the fall damage resistance he gained earlier. He decides to use it and lures the worm toward a nearby cliff, tricking it into jumping off with him. When they hit the ground, Alugia is still intact thanks to his resistance and the fact that he landed on top of the worm. The system informs him that he gained 12 experience points for killing the worm, and as a result, he leveled up and unlocked evolution. The system shows him the evolution tree and asks which path he wants, the baby dragon tree or the little dragon tree. Alugia has no idea what the difference is, so the system explains. Little dragons are a dwarf dragon species, but even though they're small, they can still grow to about the size of a bear and have powerful fire-breathing abilities. Baby dragons, on the other hand, don't have much going for them except the potential to evolve into many different dragon species, but they taste really good with soy sauce. So if he chooses that, he might end up in an episode of Delicious and Dungeon. Alugia definitely doesn't want to become food, so the little dragon seems like the safer option. But just as he's about to choose, he hears another voice telling him to grow stronger and aim for the top. This voice is completely different from the system's voice, and he has no idea where it came from, but it seems to be talking about his evolution choice. The little dragon is the safe option, but the baby dragon has more long-term potential. Even though it's risky, Alugia decides to choose the baby dragon evolution path. After evolving, all his stats increase by a decent amount, but his HP isn't fully restored, so he still needs to rest. Then his stomach starts growling, and he looks over at the worm's corpse, which looks strangely appetizing. He assumes this is his baby dragon instinct kicking in, since he'd normally never think about eating a worm. But he doesn't have many food options, so he goes for it. And yeah, it tastes just as bad as he expected. The next morning, Alugia wakes up after a nap with his HP fully restored. But now he has to deal with the reality that he's officially a baby dragon. He has no clue why he was reincarnated into this world, who brought him here, or even who he used to be before reincarnation. He's pretty sure he was human before, but he can't recall any clear memories of his previous life or what it was like. Just then, Alugia notices a swarm of dark worms gathering behind him, and now that he's no longer an egg, he can finally fight back. He slices them apart one by one. Killing the worms gives him a huge amount of experience, allowing him to jump straight to level 3. With this level increase, he unlocks the baby fire-breathing skill, which he uses to burn even more worms until he reaches level 7. He keeps farming worms until he finally hits level 15. And with how fast he's leveling up, he's excited to see what his next evolution will be. Suddenly, Yue's stomach starts growling, and he realizes he'll probably have to eat more worms if he wants to stay at full strength. But these things are disgusting. He decides to look for something else instead. While searching, he spots some mushrooms on the ground that look delicious. But then he remembers why you should never eat random forest mushrooms. They're full of poison, and he barely survives. Still, he gains a poison-resistant skill, so it wasn't a total waste. Lucia still refuses to eat worms, so he heads deeper into the forest to find new prey. A few minutes later, he spots a gray wolf. The wolf is bigger, but its stats are higher, so he decides to hunt it and runs alongside it. He then fire punches the wolf to death, and after inspecting the body, he realizes he can cook the meat with his flames. Minutes later, Lucia is holding perfectly cooked wolf meat, and it's the best thing he's eaten since arriving in this world. He decides to hunt wolves exclusively so he can eat their meat at the end of each day. Thanks to his hard work, by evening, Lucia reaches level 20, and his next evolution will happen at level 25. However, the higher his level gets, the slower he levels up, so things won't be as easy from now on. On the bright side, using his baby breath so often has made him really good at grilling meat, so food is no longer a problem. Still, he wishes he had someone to talk to besides the system, since it never answers his important questions. Just then, Lucia hears voices coming from the forest. He doesn't understand what they're saying, but it means there are other people nearby, so he decides to investigate. The voices belong to a group of humans, and Lucia wants to talk to them, but doing so as a dragon is difficult. Individually, none of them are as strong as him, but they have the numbers advantage, so revealing himself is risky. Still, he doesn't want to be alone forever, so he decides to go out anyway. Unfortunately, he forgets that baby dragon meat tastes amazing with soy sauce. The moment the adventurers see him, they attack, hoping for an easy meal. He tries to tell them he doesn't want to fight, but he can't speak their language. One of them slashes his chest, while another uses a lightning spell to paralyze him. Realizing his mistake, he tries to escape, but the lightning has numbed his legs, and he can't move. The adventurers close in to finish him off. At the last second, the girl with him steps in and stops them because she feels sorry for him. When Lucia opens his eyes again, he sees the girl healing his wounds, and he's genuinely grateful she protected him. The other two don't understand why she cares about a random dragon that could have been their dinner, but they don't stop her. Lucia checks her stats and learns her name is Mia, an Earth human. She's using the last of her MP to heal him. His legs have already recovered, but he knows she'll probably leave once she realizes he's fine, so he pretends to stay injured a bit longer. Lucia still doesn't understand her words, but by listening to her, he gains the Greek language skill. If he levels it up, he'll be able to understand her better. Suddenly, he hears loud screams deeper in the forest and realizes they must be the other adventurers. For them to scream like that, there must be an insanely strong monster nearby, and there's no way they can survive it. Mia wants to go help her friends, but Lucia grabs her coat to stop her since it's too dangerous, especially with no MP left. But she doesn't understand him and runs off anyway. Lucia knows none of the humans can beat whatever is out there, so he decides to follow them, even though his legs are still numb. When he finally reaches the scene, he's shocked to see a giant C-rank rock dragon with over 200 HP, far more than his own 30 HP. Normally, he would run away immediately, but then he sees Mia collapsed on the ground and refuses to abandon her. So he has no choice but to stand his ground. This marks the end of episode 1. Subscribe so you don't miss the next episode.